Ted, it's time for that pleasant Thursday night custom of ours, a moment of relaxation over a steaming cup of Maxwell House coffee.
Yes, sir. Right you are, Bob. But first, I'd like to remind the folks why we packed this superb blend in that familiar blue super vacuum can. Well, you see, when ground coffee is packed so the air can get at it, its flavor fades just as my voice is fading right now.
Hey, Ted, come back here. Your voice is almost faded out.
Well, I did that to show how the flavor and body of coffee fades when it's packed in ordinary containers. You see, all coffee, whether ground or in the whole bean, starts losing flavor after roasting. And you know, ground coffee, when packed in ordinary containers where the air can reach it, loses as much as 45% of its flavor in only 9 days. Yes, almost half its flavor is lost. Now you have the reason why we pack Maxwell House coffee in that airtight super vacuum can. So this loss of flavor can't happen to Maxwell House. From the hour it leaves the roasting ovens, all the full flavor, all the rich body of Maxwell House coffee is sealed in, brought to you roaster fresh.
And it's a cup of that same full-flavored, full-bodied coffee that we're inviting you all to have with us right now. So, Meredith, let's have some of that flavorful music of yours to go with a cup of this coffee that buoys you up and never lets you down.
We now pause briefly for station identification.
You're listening to KFI Los Angeles.
This is Bob Young again, and we continue good news with a lot of dynamite still to come. Gus Kahn, more of Una Merkel and Frank Morgan, Fanny Brice singing in Meredith Willson's concert hall. Meredith leads at the halfway post with a little number that seems to be tickling the feet of most of the jitterbugs around the country. After You. And now, friends of Maxwell House, here's a fellow who writes songs. He is probably one of the most talented in all this entertainment business, being responsible for such terrific hits as, well, just to mention a few, Chloe, the number Meredith just played, I Never Knew, I'll See You in My Dreams, Whoopee, Yes Sir, That's My Baby, Karaoke, My Buddy, and most recently the songs in the Nelson Eddy Jeanette MacDonald opus, The Girl of the Golden West, the poet laureate of the MGM lot, America's premier lyricist, Mr. Gus Kahn.
Thank you, everybody. And, Bob, the way you whip those adjectives around, you should be in the songwriting racket yourself.
Not me. About the best I can do is moon, spoon, and June. Which reminds me, Gus, how many of those mooners, spooners, and Juners do you figure you've dreamed up?
I should say in the neighborhood of 700 or 800.
Wow, some neighborhood.
There's one thing I want kept straight, Bob. That I was only the lyric writer of these songs. The melodies were written by a few boys who really know their way around Tin Pan Alley. Vincent Youmans, Harry Warren, Ted Fiorito, Rudolph Frimmel, Walter Donaldson, and Sigmund Romberg.
That reminds me, Gus, something I've often wondered about songwriting. Which comes first, the melody or the lyric?
I was waiting for that, Bob. Well, there's no set rule. If the fellow who writes the words comes along with a good idea, the composer can usually fit a tune to it, or vice versa. It's like the chicken and the egg. Most of the time, even the writers don't know which came first.
Gus, is it true you have to be just a little goofy to be a songwriter?
Well, you don't have to be, but it certainly is a big help.
Like pictures. Exactly what do you mean by that, Gus?
Well, for example, once when I was doing some songs for a show with George Gershwin, I phoned him and said, George, I've got a terrific lyric idea. He said, well, I've just finished a tremendous tune. Maybe we can write a colossal song. Come right over.
So what happened?
When we got together, I discovered the title he had was Starlight Serenade. And the title I had was When the Apple Blossoms Bloom in Oregon.
What did you finally call the song?
Liza.
Oh. Gus, what was your first big song hit?
Well, I fooled around with a lot of them, but I think the first one that really clicked in a big way that you may remember was a little tune that went something like this. You're nobody's sweetheart now. Thanks, Meredith. They don't, baby, you somehow.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, Frank, that applause wasn't for you. It was for Gus Kahn here. You know Gus, don't you?
Gus Kahn, do I know him? Do I know him? Who is he, Bob?
Frank, Gus Kahn is one of the foremost lyric writers.
Oh, a songwriter. Well, Mr. Kahn, you're just the man I'm looking for.
Oh, here it comes.
Well, Mr. Kahn, of course, you know I'm quite a musician.
I've heard you sing.
Yes, well, don't jump at conclusions. I'm really very musical, and Mr. Kahn, I can use a man like you.
I'll be glad to be of assistance if I can.
Well, you see, I've just written what I modestly consider one of my greatest melodies, but I need a lyric.
Now, don't tell me that Morgan, the mental giant, can't write a simple little lyric.
Well, I could, but the lyric to this number isn't very important, so I thought I might as well let Kahn here do it.
Don't be so generous, Frank.
Well, just wait till you hear this melody, gentlemen. I consider it the finest of my many sensational scores, and that's one man's opinion.
What is the score? What is the score, Mr. Morgan?
7-2 in favor of the Yankees. Oh, the musical score. Well, it will positively revolutionize the music business. Publishers will pay thousands for just the verse.
What about the chorus?
Well, there was one little blonde, third from the end, cute as a restless ear.
Oh, Frank, Gus is talking about the chorus of your song.
Oh, well, all right, if you insist on switching the conversation. What about the chorus of my song?
Is it any good?
Who wrote it?
You did.
Oh, of course, my song. Oh, well, it's sort of a subdued tone poem, a musical fantasy that captures the mood of the old South. The Mississippi lapping gently against the levees. Old Man River rolling, rolling along. Lift that bale, tote that bar.
Wait a minute,
Get yourself, go ahead and get enough. What? Well, you see how I'm carried away by music.
Yeah, you're carried away, but not far enough. Now, what about this beautiful tone poem, this tender southern musical fantasy?
Well, you fellows love it. Now, just listen.
Yes, Frank, that's really the old South.
Yeah, well, I thought you'd like it.
So that's your own original melody, eh, Mr. Morgan?
Well, of course. Who else could breathe into a melody the spirit of the old plantation with its cone, pone, and pride picking in it?
You sure? You're sure it was inspired by the old South?
Certainly so.
You haven't got any old phonograph records around the house, have you, Mr. Morgan?
Well, Mr. Kahn, if you're trying to insult me, let me tell you it's impossible. Are you insinuating my melody isn't entirely original?
We're not insinuating anything. We're telling you that the melody you're humming is one of Mr.
Just a minute, Bob. Listen, Mr. Kahn. I mean, Mr. Morgan. See, I'm talking to myself.
Well,
you're Mr. Morgan.
I'm
Mr. Kahn.
Oh, you're Kahn.
I really think you've got something there, and I'd like to write the words for that tune. Do you mind giving it to me again?
Well, it kind of gets you, doesn't it? Dee-dee-dee-da-da.
Just a minute.
Dee-da.
How's this for a title?
Yeah?
You're nobody's sweetheart now.
Well, maybe. Of course, to give it the real southern atmosphere, you'd have to change it to your nobody's sweetheart now, honey child.
Nice suggesting, Frank.
Just a second. I think I've got the start of the words, Mr. Morgan. How's this? You're nobody's sweetheart now. They don't baby you somehow.
No, that doesn't quite fit it. Bob, where'd you find this fellow? I could write better lyrics with my fingers crossed. Now, listen to this. Yes, sir, that's my baby now. Yes, sir, that's my baby now. Yes, sirree, yes, sirree, yes, sirree. That's my... You hear me screaming.
Listen to Frank.
What?
If you must know, Mr. Kahn wrote a song called Nobody's Sweetheart. It was a big hit, published over 20 years ago, and the melody to it is exactly the same one you're trying to tell us that you wrote.
Of course it's... What? What did you say?
I'm telling you that's Gus Kahn's song.
Well, that's a fine thing. I just meet the man and already stole my song. It's treason, sabotage. Just wait till the Humane Society hears about this. I've been stabbed.